Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of the latest episode of The Wheel of Time, The Flame of Valon. And I really enjoyed this episode a lot because we actually got a lot of information on Moraine as a character here, as she was the main kind of focal point and anchor character of what was going on. And it was really kind of cool to see that because we've mainly seen her through how other people have seen her, if that makes sense. We've seen how she presents herself to the Two Rivers folk, trying to get them and escaping as she's dealing with a wound. Then we see her dealing with the other Aes Sedai outside of the White Tower, as she has happened upon their camp as they've captured Loghain. Here, we see her in various different kind of aspects with changing herself to suit what's going on. It shows the real complexities of who she is here, and it's really kind of cool. But I actually start this episode off with actually a flashback in Tyr with a Suan Sanchi, Suan, the woman who will be known as the Emerald Seat, the Flame of Tar Valon, as we will see her in the present days. Suan, yeah. If I'm saying that incorrectly, I'm sorry. It's just, you know, when you've got you've got a book that you're reading and you're pronounced it in your head for like years like that, and then they get an adaptation and it's like, how the fuck are they saying that? It's really kind of weird. So it's kind of cool to see her as a little girl, and we see her helping, like, her father's like waking her up. They go out to do some fishing, but the thing is, he is missing a hand, so he's having trouble with a knot. And then we see her utilizing the one power with weaves to help him untie the knot. He's like, damn, you're getting good at this. But the thing is, we have to be careful because people are afraid of that. I really like how they're pretty much utilizing the same kind of things that you see within the X-Men books of, like, how mutants are viewed. Like, some of them could get, like, delusions of grandeur, god complexes, and try and stomp people out. And then that has people go completely overboard and being like, I'm the god now, bitch! And, like, tries to kill anybody that does that shit. Because we see them as they're doing their things, and he's like, wow, you're really learning pretty fast with this. And it's kind of cool to see someone young utilizing the one power like this. But the thing is, they get back home, and their house is burnt down, of course, with the mark that we see utilized mostly throughout the series of, like, yin and yang and all that. And he's like, okay, you have to go to Tar Valon, to the White Tower, to learn and everything. And it sucks because the father doesn't want to do it, but he knows it's what's best for her because of how good she is with the one power and how great she will be, and to pretty much tell her to, like, take no shit from people. And we then see her drift off, and then we come into, of course, the present day, and we see that Moraine, Leandrin, and Alana are standing to be questioned by the Emerald Seat. And, of course, we get another top-down view. I don't mind them, it's just like, another one. But it's kind of cool to see the chamber and to see all the Ajas presented, and to see kind of the prominence of the Emerald Seat. It's also kind of funny because Egwene in the later in the episode is asking, isn't it kind of confusing that the seat is called the Emerald Seat and the person that sits in the seat is also called the Emerald Seat? It's like, you kind of get with it. You know what I mean? Right? It's kind of like, you get used to it kind of shit. It's like, yeah, that's understandable. But the whole thing of the Emerald Seat is she is of no Aja. But we see that doesn't really jive with, of course, the politics of the tower, because she was of the Blue Aja. But she comes in and she pretty much asks what in the holy helly fucking doodah went on kind of shit. And of course they bring in Loghain to have him questioned, because she's like, should have had the trial and everything. And he comes in and she's pretty much trying to figure out what to do with him. And Loghain's like, yeah, you sitting here pretending with all your power 100 years ago, I would have never been able to raise an army against you. Now I had one at my back within a year to go against you. And of course, you're like, whoa, he's coming in kind of hot with that shit. She's like, you know what? No matter what, I'm not going to kill you. And you do kind of get that because as Logan's being pulled out, he's begging them to kill him. And that just really goes to show what gentling someone does and how that changes them. And the thing is, even though Logain potentially was going to do that to get a rise out of her, it does show the political power at this time of the Aes Sedai. Because the thing is, normally, you don't want to fuck with them. But evidently, in where we're at, they're getting to a point where it's like, yeah, people are not happy with them, aren't trustful of them, and are like, you know what? They might be able to use super duper powers and shit, but let's see if we can fuck with them. You know? Now, granted, they only were going to do that when they had their own superpower badass kind of doing it, so and kind of take what you can get. But I mean, fucking the White Cloaks are even going and taking out them one at a time. So they still have power, but their power is in a tenuous position right now, and they're playing some interesting kind of games. So we pretty much first have Leandrin pretty much called on the carpet for doing the gentling, but then she starts pretty much pulling in on Moraine to pretty much kind of deflect some shit off of her. And the thing is, they really do a good job of making Leandrin a fucking... She is a good character because I fucking hate her. She definitely has vibes of like Dolores Umbridge from Harry Potter with this shit, because it's like, oh, you're fucking around. I can't wait to see until you find out. So she brings up like Nynaeve and everything, and what Moraine has been doing with all that, and Alana reluctantly has to pretty much back her up with this shit with like Nynaeve having like super powered healing, and she gets called on the carpet to answer the questions, but of course she can't. And the thing is, the Emerald seat, Suan is like, alright then, I'm gonna have to think of your punishment and Leandrin's punishment. So you guys are gone. And of course Leandrin was like, screw you, motherfucker. Now granted, politely, whenever the worst kind of fuck you is when it's done kind of politely, and when somebody thinks they're from a position of power where they can't get fucking fuck that, you know what I mean? It's like, ooh, so irritating. But then we start seeing her kind of shift, because we did see her being like, mother, I cannot reveal this kind of stuff to you. I can't reveal what I was doing for all these years. Because the thing is, if you read the books, you're like, what the fuck's going on here? Why would she just be let out to do all this kind of stuff? Normally she wouldn't. We also see that the head of the Blue Aja wants to talk to her about stuff like that, and is kind of glad that she's back. Now granted, it's not brought up until a little bit later, but she wants her to be more permanent in the tower and be at home, even though we know that she doesn't really feel that way. She's got a mission, and she's going to fucking do it. So we then kind of split up, and Moraine is mainly the focal point, so if I kind of go a little bit out of order, I apologize, because it kind of all goes and eventually circles into what we get to. So she then goes out in her awesome blue-ass costume. Like, seriously, I hand it to the costuming people, because her outfit's fucking spot on and just a great shade of blue. It's like, yeah, do you. And we see her kind of working around, kind of seeing what's going on. We see her, let's see. That isn't until later. She does visit mainly our three kind of groups and kind of get them situated. She visits and sees what's going on with Perrin and Egwene. Egwene pretty much gives her the rundown of the White Cloaks pretty much going after him. Her bringing back the rings and handing that and being thanked for that. Also giving Moraine the information that when Perrin was getting sliced, his eyes turned gold. Moraine's like, that's fucking weird. And don't fucking tell that to anybody, okay? Ha! Yes. And then we're gonna have to, like, talk about some shit later. But she's like, keep that? Don't tell anybody about that. Holy fucking shit. The thing is, she's able to be, like, the different kind of persona where she's like, okay, I'm in charge and I gotta deal with this shit. And gets that information and be like, alright, cool. Like, she doesn't panic about it, but as you've gone through the series, you can kind of see her face of like, huh, that is a development, and has to kind of figure out what's kind of going on with that. We go over, and then we see that she does visit Rand, Nynaeve, and Matt, and of course, he's trying to figure out what's going on, and Moraine is like, you stupid boy. Like, like, you can see in her face because she figures out about the dagger and everything, and because they think, of course, it's channeling kind of issues, but she's like, you stupid boy, and you can see on her face, you're like, you dumb bastard, you fucking did this, you fucked around, you found out, now we gotta fucking deal with this shit. Of course, Rand doesn't understand what's going on, and is trying to, like, stop her first before Land's like, hey, fuck off, man, she's trying to do some shit. And then we get this really cool scene. Now, granted, this is kind of, I will say, easier. I say that in quotes because Moraine still has a bear of a time kind of dealing with this thing. But it is not as involved as it was in the books, of where she's able to, they find the dagger, she doesn't really touch it, but she's able to utilize the one power to rip out like the Mashadar kind of poison infecting mat and put it back into the dagger. And it's really cool how they do this, because it symbolizes more of what's kind of going on with the power and like kind of the taint, because she kind of sucks it into her weave, and it kind of looks similar to like Loghain's channeling. Now, we'll kind of have to, and it's really interesting because it comes up and it tries to like put itself on Moraine's face. It's like, shit, this is fucking nasty. This is like, so she's got fucking danger kind of dealing with this, but she's able to then put it back into the dagger. It's on the ground. It's like, Jesus Christ, we gotta like deal with that. And Rand's like, oh, okay, thank you. Well, of course, he can't see what's going on because he can't see her weaves and everything, so he doesn't know what she's kind of doing. And it's like, all right. And then Nynaeve pops in. It's like, your stubbornness almost got these people, like, Matt killed, so, And it's a testament to his strength that he wasn't consumed by this shit, like, weeks ago. So, you guys are lucky as shit, man. But, whatever. Let's see here. So, she then gets back into the tower and is trying to do her own stuff. Leandra's pretty much calling her out for, like, checking in on those people and, like, she's pretty much showing off her spy network. And then Moraine is, like, tired of her fucking shit. Says, you know what? I know you got a dude down by the harbor, and I bet you the Reds would be really fucking interested in that shit. Now, granted, I'm doing it in my own kind of way. Moraine does it in her, like, impeccable way of, like, yeah, I got your number. I can utilize it at any point. What you gonna do? Fuck off, bitch. And it's such a quick, interesting little piece of how it's done that it's like, damn. It really showcases Moraine at, like, a pissed point. Like, she doesn't dick waggle. Like, she'll be like, hey, I got a big dick. You know what I mean? Like, some people do. Men, women, anything like that. She fucking goes in and she's like, if I'm going to call out a card, I'm going to do it tactically so that way you know that I've got info on you. And if you try and do anything, I'm going to fuck you up. Because she can fuck people up with the one power. She can fuck people up with, like, how she words things. She can fuck people up by letting the best kind of information for her fall at the worst kind of time for your ass. And it's just so nice to see her be able to be like, Well, then, of course, we see Egwene pretty much in the hall where the Ajas are. I'm hitting the main kind of points until we kind of get to, like, our endings and everything. And Egwene's like, wow, this is kind of cool. Of course, talking about the Amyrlin seat. And like, hey, come, the Amyrlin wants to see you. And, of course, we see that Egwene and Nynaeve are brought in. And we see Suan in a different kind of light as well, because even though this episode mainly focuses on the differences that Moraine has, it is also very closely tied to how Suan also presents herself as well, because she was big Amyrlin seat lady when everybody was there. And here, she was trying to be as welcoming as possible. Egwene's like, alright, cool. I was like, yeah, Moraine did a very good job finding one of the most powerful channelers, Nynaeve, and like Egwene's like, what the fuck's going on here? And trying to see. Egwene's a little bit more receptive. Nynaeve is like, I don't trust your shit at all. Alright? And she's like, well, at this point, doesn't matter what you want. Greatness is called upon you, and you're gonna have to do some shit. Dark One and all that. We had also seen that Moraine does have a meeting in the Baths with her head of the Blue Aja, and the thing is, she wants her to be more in the White Tower and the head actually wants to go out and check some shit out for herself. However, this would severely curtail Moraine's plans for what's going on. And we also see that she does. She'd also brought up that she brought home the rings and everything, and for Egwene, and was like, "Hey, thank you." But we see that she's kind of moving and doing different kind of things, and she does also talk to Loyal because she needed his help with something. And then one of the big kind of things that we see here is that Lan and Moraine are kind of talking to me like, "Yeah, you got a big kind of day and everything." It's like, "All right, fine. You're gonna be going. You're gonna be doing your shit. I'll stand outside and have watch and everything." I love their relationship. It's really kind of cool. They just have this kind of. It's a thing that you just see in a scene when you got two actors who understand the characters very well and are just able to do it, and you're just like. It's a thing that you have to be careful with because sometimes you take it for granted, but sometimes when you just see it in action, you're like, I'm really glad they were able to kind of do this. So Lan kind of goes out, stands guard over her rooms as Moraine is in her pretty much night outfit, and we see her go to the portrait kind of thing. And I think that this is like the World of Dreams, Teleran Riyadh, that she kind of goes to because it opens up a door and it's like, what the fuck is this? That is my best bet guess. Otherwise, it's something that wouldn't be out bounds in the Wheel of Time, more kind of like a pocket dimension or something, which usually you could use the World of Dreams for. So it's not really that crazy because we also get into some kind of shit towards the end of this episode that is also kind of similar to kind of like sci-fi / fantasy stuff. Excuse me. So she goes in and we see that she is meeting with Suan and that they're lovers. And I've got no problem with it because it actually isn't. It's actually organically done as much as possible. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel stilted. Their dialogue and their interaction work very well because we'd seen them in her in the position of power and Moraine in the one that's like subordinate to her. And that's how usually the stuff is in the White Tower. Here, they're equals and we learn more about what's going on, about the prophecy of the Dragon Reborn and everything that they've been doing because normally they go after any kind of male channeler and shut that shit down as much as possible. And the thing is, they don't know exactly what's going on because we learn all these prophecies could be translated hundreds of different ways with hundreds of different meanings. That could be a man, could be a woman. What happens if the Dragon Reborn soul is split into 5 parts? And that is an interesting kind of thing to be brought up. I'm like, huh, that would be a crazy kind of challenge and a crazy kind of change up to the Wheel of Time, but not something out there. Now, granted, usually the stuff within the book is like if you're a soul, you kind of just keep getting spat out. You know what I mean? To be split up like that is not an occurrence that was ever really heard of in the books. But bringing up that kind of concept is an interesting thing to kind of explore within this adaptation. I'm like, huh, what if it's not one person? What if it's all of these? And that also then brings in the Taviran kind of thing as well because they affect the pattern as well, and that could like lead to more of them being kind of brought up in one place if it's kind of split like that. Now, I'm not saying that that's how they're going to take it or that's one that I would want them to go, but it's kind of cool to have that kind of idea, and if it's executed well, that would be kind of a different kind of spin. But they're just showing that they don't know a lot of things and that they are going on this information because they want to make sure that the world is safe and that the world is safe. And they're going to do the things that they need to do, even if it means keeping their relationship a secret, keeping their plans secret, and just doing what they do. And it's kind of cool to see Moraine and Suan in this vulnerable kind of space where they're comfortable with each other because all the rest of the time they have to have all these kind of masks on and do all these kind of things, and it's kind of awesome to see how they interact here and how playful they are, and talking about how Suan has more tattoos and whatnot since she's been gone and all that, and they're like, all right, so You need to do this. So they come up with a plan that for Moraine's punishment, she will be exiled from the White Tower. And that's... At first you'd be like, why the fuck would you do that? Because most of the shit that she needs to get done is not in Tar Valon. So it does seem like an extreme thing, but as Moraine pointed out, you always have to understand how words are said and what they mean. So they come up with that plan. They kind of had their moments and everything. And then we start shifting towards the end kind of scape of the episode. So she, of course, has her called to the hall, and she says she can't say anything about the things, and decides, alright then, I will exile you. You swear it upon the oath rod. And this is a really cool scene because it gives us lore and kind of new information and what's going on, because the oath rod is a very important part of Aes Sedai tradition within the White Tower, and you swear on this thing, you can't break that. You break it, you die. Like, there's people like, yeah, I break promises and all that shit. Well, guess what, motherfucker? Your dead is dog shit. So, this is a big kind of thing. So, we definitely see how this works. We see Suan talking about how she's exiled until the Emerald Sea calls her home. And we see her weave of power go through the oath rod. We hear Moraine say that she will not go home until Suan Sanchi calls her home. She doesn't just leave it as the Emerald Seat. She picks this shit specifically. She copies enough of it to not, like, throw anybody off. You know what I mean? So, the thing is, like, if some political instability installed a new Emerald Seat and called her home, then granted, she would have to, you would think she'd have to be called home. But the thing is, she's put it in place that Suan Sanchi has to do it. So that just shows how much faith and how much craftiness she has to have that put on there for that. And the thing is, while they were in their little powwow as well, she had brought up that she had been having visions that the Dark One was stirring at the Eye of the World, and that he's like weak. So they gotta hit him right now, pretty much. So she's like, alright, I'll gather, I'll do what I need to. So she does that, she walks out, we see everybody kind of like turning and shunning her. The head of the Blue Eyes just like, no fuck! And we see everybody doing that, she's able to gather her stuff, she kind of rides out. And we see this weird structure, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And we see, of course, the rest of the gathering. We see Lan, Egwene, Perrin, Rand, Mat, and Loyal pop up. And, of course, they're like, alright, we kind of need to know what the fuck is going on here. And she's like, alright. Also, an important thing, it was brought up that they were kind of worried to figure out how the Trollocs were able to get to the Two Rivers without being seen. You're about to see the place that could have been utilized to do that. Now, granted, it's in the books. Here, I'm not sure quite how they are going to do that. But she's like, alright, here's the thing. The Eye of the World is where the Dark One was imprisoned. And he's trying to break free, so we're going to try and, like, fuck him up. Now, the thing is, she did bring up that she didn't want the others to die. And that it says that the dragon and the Dark One would tussle, but that probably anybody that goes there with him, him or her, would die. So she kind of lays that out as well, and be like, hey, now, it's really kind of weird, because I was like, I don't think the Eye of the World is where the Dark One was imprisoned. And I looked it up in the book, and that was like the last bit of Sayadine, the male half of the true source, that was not tainted by the Dark One's touch was. So I'm weird to see how this kind of works out, because Shangul is usually where the Dark One was imprisoned, war happened, shit went fucking nutsies, and we have what we have here. So I'm interested to see how this change kind of works out. At first I was like, huh? And then I'm like, alright, we'll kind of see how this wiggles and shakes. And the thing is, they have Loyal around because the Ways, they're called the Builders for a reason. They, their race was important in the building of the Ways, and think of them as like wormholes, warp kind of places, i.e., you walk like a couple hundred feet in there and you could go like a couple hundred miles around. And the thing is, there's a lot of weird and crazy shit that can go on in there as well. Like, I don't know, moving an army without anybody knowing and popping out somewhere else. And I kind of like the kind of way portal kind of thing. It's like, alright, cool. So like, alright, I kind of need you guys because I don't know which fucking one to use the dragon. And granted, she says it more diplomatically, of course, because it's Moraine, but they gotta go deal with this shit. So she decides to start weaving the one power and opens the way gate, and most of them, except Matt, go in. And Rand's trying to call to him, is like, come on, the rest of them start joining in, but it closes, and Matt is not with them. It's like, okay? And I'm trying to figure out, because it has been a while since I've read the first book. And I'm like, alright, I understand that that's probably where we see the last, potentially, of this Matt Cawthon. And it's just kind of strange. I'm like, alright, because he is kind of pivotal and other things going on. And I understand that he has been recast for the second season. And I've heard if it was like good, bad, like if it's scheduling conflicts or anything else kind of hopped up. I'm like, alright, it's kind of weird that he just kind of like stayed there. Now, granted, with everything that had been going on, you could make definitive kind of character motivations of, I ran away with you guys, I want to make sure my sisters are safe, I went to a place, now granted, stupidly picked up a dagger and almost died, and he would just be like, yeah, nah, I'm okay not getting in the freaky, crazy, dark-looking gate that would probably kill me, and then also getting to a place and fight the literal embodiment of fucking darkness and evil. I think I'm good. So the thing is, you can be like, yeah, if he kind of like popped up towards the end and like, yeah, I don't want to kind of fucking do all that shit. You'd be like, yeah, I got it. So we'll kind of have to see how that kind of shakes out. And they have left their horses and everything, so they're just going in on their own. So we'll see how that kind of works out. See how our group is without Matt and how they kind of work out together after they've been on their own many adventures and coming back together with the fold to get towards the end of this season and pretty much the first book. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.